3 days had passed since Lucy asked about the death badgers. 3 days of normal work and normal routines. Then, Captain Robert Sullivan took a team into the forest, and nothing would be normal again. Robert was the colony biologist. He was thin and smart and careful. He had asked Daniel for permission to study the death badger colonies in the field. Daniel had said yes, but he had also sent 2 security officers with Robert, Marcus and Kevin, both good men, both with weapons. Robert did not want weapons. He wanted to understand the creatures, not kill them. But Daniel had insisted. This was not a conversation. It was an order. So on the morning of day 3, Robert, Marcus, and Kevin left the colony fence and entered the forest. They moved slowly. Robert stopped often to record sounds and take measurements. The forest was thick with green. Trees were tall. The ground was soft under their feet. Robert felt alive in a way he did not feel inside the colony. Here, the world was real. Here, things happened without planning. Stay alert, Marcus said. He held a weapon that looked like a rifle but worked differently. Energy discharge. Fast and powerful. Designed for large animals. Designed for creatures that attacked humans. For 2 hours, they found nothing. The forest was quiet. Too quiet. Robert began to wonder if the badgers had moved to a different area. Maybe the colony had scared them away. Maybe they were hunting far from here. Then Kevin stopped. He held up his hand. Signal for everyone to be still. Robert heard it then. A sound like breathing. Low and harsh. Near and getting closer. Movement, Marcus whispered. 12 o'clock. 20 meters. The badgers came into view slowly. They were smaller than Robert expected, even after reading the reports. Maybe 50 centimeters long. Covered in dark brown fur. Eyes that were intelligent and aware. 4 of them. No, 5. They were moving in a pattern. Hunting pattern. They are testing us, Robert said quietly. Get back to the fence, Marcus said. Wait, look at the burrow. Robert pointed. There was a hole in the ground, hidden under thick roots. The badgers were moving in circles around the humans, but they kept moving back toward the hole. They have young nearby. As if answering, a sound came from the burrow. Small sounds. Babies crying for food. They think we are a threat, Kevin said. The largest badger, the mother, made a sound that was part hiss and part scream. She moved forward. Fast. Faster than Robert thought anything could move. She was on Marcus. Before anyone could react, her teeth were long and sharp. She bit into his leg, tearing fabric and skin. Marcus screamed. The sound was real and terrible. He fell backward. Kevin tried to aim his weapon, but the badger was moving too fast. The other badgers came now, smaller and faster. They were not attacking, just pushing, trying to make the humans leave. But Marcus was bleeding. His leg had a deep wound. He was on the ground, and he could not stand. Robert did the only thing he could think of. He had a thermal flare in his pack. He took it out and activated it. The flare burned hot, red and orange. He threw it. The flare hit the mother badger in the side. The sound she made was something Robert would never forget. A scream that was almost human. She fell. Her fur was burned. Her body shook. The other badgers scattered, making sounds, calling to her. But she did not move again. She was dying. Get Marcus, Robert said. His voice sounded far away, like someone else was speaking. They moved back toward the fence. Marcus was heavy and hurt. His leg was bleeding badly. Kevin used cloth to wrap it, but the blood came through. They did not run. Running would use too much energy. They walked fast, and the forest seemed to watch them. The badgers did not follow. They stayed with their mother. Back at the colony, the medical center was ready. Sarah, the nurse, cut away Marcus's pants, and looked at the wound. It was bad. Very bad. But it would heal. Marcus would live. Daniel called a meeting with Robert. What happened? Daniel asked. His voice was cold. A mother badger with young, Robert said. She thought we were attacking her babies. She defended them. That is what mothers do. You killed her? I had to. She was killing Marcus. Daniel was quiet for a long moment. This stays quiet. Not a word to the Calthrum. Not a report. Nothing. Is that understood? Sir, they have a right to know. No. Daniel's voice cut like a blade. The Calthrum have no right to anything. We stay quiet. We stay small. We stay alive. That is the rule. Robert wanted to argue, but he did not. He had seen the look in Daniel's eyes. The look that said Daniel would do anything to protect this colony, even if it meant hiding the truth. That night, Robert could not sleep. He kept seeing the mother badger fall. He kept hearing her scream in the forest. Something else could not sleep. The smaller badger, the one with burns on her body from the thermal flare, crawled through the dark. She was hurt and alone. Her mother was gone. Her siblings had scattered. She was lost. She moved toward the colony fence. She did not understand why, but she could still smell the humans. She could still hear them. Maybe they could help. Maybe they could do something. She did not know about enemies. She did not know about fear. She only knew pain and loneliness. She moved toward the fence and toward a future that nobody could have predicted. The next morning, Lucy woke with the sun in her eyes. The light was coming through her window, and it was bright and yellow. She was 8 years old, and she had things to do. First, her garden. She pulled on her clothes and went outside. The colony was just starting to wake up. A few people were walking toward the food center. The machines were starting their daily sounds. But Lucy did not pay attention to any of this. She went to the section where she had planted her vegetables. The tomatoes were growing tall. The lettuce was green and soft. She watered them carefully, making sure every plant got exactly the right amount. She talked to the plants while she watered them. She told them they were doing good. She told them they would be strong and healthy. After the garden, Lucy did something she was not supposed to do. She walked toward the eastern fence. Daniel had told her to stay close to the buildings. But Daniel also spent all his time in meetings, and sometimes children had to make their own choices. Lucy was brave in the way that children are brave. Without fully understanding danger, she walked along the inside of the fence. The fence hummed with electricity. It kept bad things out and good people in. That is what Daniel had said once. Beyond the fence, the forest was green and alive. Lucy could see movements in the trees. She could hear the sounds of animals. It was a different world than the colony world. A real world. Then she saw something that made her stop. There was a body on the ground, just past the fence. An animal, brown fur, not moving. Lucy looked around. No one was watching. No one was near. She had a choice. She could tell an adult. Or she could do something else. Lucy did something else. She found a place where the fence had a small gap near the bottom, something Daniel did not know about. Children find things that adults miss. She squeezed through. It was a tight fit, but she was small. She walked out into the forest. The ground was soft. The air smelled different. Everything was bigger when you were actually in the forest, not just looking at it through a fence. The dead animal was lying under a large tree. Lucy could see now that it was not really a badger. It was something else, something unique to this world. Its fur was dark red and brown. Its eyes were closed. It was dead. Lucy felt something move in her chest. A tight feeling. A sad feeling. This creature had been alive. It had moved and hunted and lived. Now it did not move anymore. She did not know why, but she knew it was wrong. Dead things should not be alone. Lucy went back through the gap in the fence and ran to her garden. She picked her best flowers, the ones she had been growing carefully, waiting for them to be perfect. They were not perfect yet, but they would do. She brought them back and placed them around the dead animal's body. She arranged them carefully. She made a circle of red flowers around the brown creature. She wanted it to know that it was not forgotten. Then Lucy sat down beside the animal and cried. Not loud, just tears that came quietly while she looked at the creature and thought about its life and its death. I am sorry, she said to the dead animal. I am sorry you were gone. You were doing your job. You were trying to protect your babies. That was good. That was right. She did not know the story of how this animal died. She only knew that it was dead and alone, and that was wrong. Lucy sat there for a long time. The sun moved across the sky. The forest was quiet around her. Nothing came close. Nothing bothered her. It was as if the forest understood that this was a moment that needed to be still. Finally, Lucy stood up. She looked at the animal one more time. She whispered something so quiet that no human could have heard it. I will remember you. I will tell people about you. You will not be forgotten. Then she went back through the fence gap and returned to the colony. She did not know that a camera had been watching. She did not know that her actions had been recorded by a Calthrim device left on the fence years ago. She did not know that her face, her flowers, and her quiet words of mourning were being sent to a space station somewhere above the clouds. She only knew that she had done something right that night. She ate dinner with Daniel, and she did not tell him what she had done. Some things are private. Some things belong only to the person who experiences them and the moment that contains them. But in orbit above the planet, a being named Verhesh watched the recording. He watched the human child mourn the death badger. He watched her place flowers. He watched her speak words of respect to a creature that was dead. Verhesh was a grand counselor of the Calthrim. He had seen many things in his long life. He had seen wars and treaties and the rise and fall of civilizations. But he had never seen anything like this. A creature mourning another creature. A being extending compassion to something outside its own kind. He watched the video again. And again. Each time he saw something new. Something that made him question things he had been certain about his entire life. He knew what he had to do. The morning started wrong. Lisa knew it the moment she entered the training facility. The air felt different. The normal routine was broken. The cubs were not in the main room. The training had not started. Keth stood in the hallway with another Vox. This one was large, larger than Keth. His scales were scarred. Deep wounds had left marks across his chest and arms. His left eye was milky white, not clear like the other Vox eyes Lisa had seen. This male moved with tension in every muscle. He was not at peace. Keth introduced him as Vex. Vex was a visiting instructor from the outer colonies. Vex would be assessing the cubs today. The Vox Council wanted to know if the cubs were learning proper fighting skills. They wanted to know if the training was effective. Vex was here to make that judgment. Lisa felt something wrong in her stomach. She did not trust this Vox. She did not trust the way his good eye looked at her, cold and measuring. She did not trust the way his mouth opened to show his teeth, a gesture that meant nothing good. Vex spoke to Lisa. His voice was rough, like broken metal. He asked why a human was here. Keth explained that Lisa was an observer, part of a human and Vox cooperation program. Vex made a sound that might have been a laugh. He said the Vox did not need human help. He said the Vox were strong enough to train their own cubs without outside observation. Lisa did not argue. She knew her position was not strong. She was here at the permission of the Vox Council. If Vex wanted to end the program, he might have the power to do that. Lisa said nothing. She followed Keth and Vex into the main training room. The cubs were lined up against one wall. They looked afraid. They looked like they knew something bad was coming. When Myra saw Lisa, the young cub tried to move toward her. But Vex barked a command, a sound that made all the cubs freeze. Myra stayed in line, but her eyes followed Lisa. Vex began the training session. His methods were not the same as Vel's methods. Vel was hard, but fair. Vex was hard and cruel. He shouted at the cubs for the smallest mistakes. He made them do the same movements over and over until they made errors from exhaustion. When a cub moved wrong, Vex did not just correct them. He hit them. Lisa watched from her usual place. She forced herself to stay silent. She forced herself to keep her face calm. Inside, her heart was breaking. These were just cubs. They were trying their best. They did not deserve this treatment. A young male named Dren made a small mistake in his stance. Vex noticed immediately. He grabbed Dren by the throat and lifted the cub off the ground. Dren made a sound of panic and pain. Vex held him there for several seconds before dropping him to the floor. Dren cried out, a high-pitched sound of fear and hurt. The other cubs watched. Their bodies became smaller, like they were trying to make themselves invisible. Mira made a soft sound, almost a whimper. Her eyes went back and forth between Vex and Lisa. The cub needed help, but Lisa could do nothing. For 2 hours, Vex pushed the cubs harder and harder. He made them fight each other, even though they were tired. He made them practice moves they had not learned yet. When they failed, he hit them. Not hard enough to break bones, but hard enough to cause real pain. By the end of the session, the cubs were broken. They stood in a line with their heads down. Their bodies were shaking. Some of them had blood on their scales where Vex had struck them too hard that Lisa could not take anymore. She stood up from her chair in the observation room, but there was a window between her and the main room. She could not reach them. She pressed her hands against the glass and watched the suffering. Keth saw her. He made eye contact with Lisa. There was something in his expression. It was not anger. It was something like shame. Keth had allowed this. Keth had brought Vex here. Keth had known what would happen. The final test came near the end of the day. Vex called out a young female named Kira. She was one of the weakest cubs in the group, small even for her age. Kira stepped forward. She was shaking. Vex commanded her to show him a fighting move. Kira tried. She moved into position. But her body was tired. Her mind was afraid. She made a small mistake with her hand placement. Vex screamed. It was a sound of pure rage. He grabbed Kira by the neck and shoulder. He lifted her into the air. He swung her around like she was nothing, like she was a toy and not a living creature. Then he threw her. Kira flew across the room. Her small body crashed into the metal wall hard enough to leave a dent. She fell to the ground and did not move. Blood came from her mouth. Lisa did not think. She did not consider the consequences. She stood up and moved toward the door of the observation room. She opened it and walked into the main training space. Lisa walked to where Kira lay. She knelt down beside the small cub. Kira was breathing, but she was hurt bad. Very bad. Lisa looked up at Vex and said her voice was steady and cold. She said Kira needed medical help right now. She said this was wrong. She said what Vex was doing was wrong. Vex stared at her. He turned to face Lisa completely. He began to walk toward her. With each step, his anger grew. His muscles tensed. His claws opened and closed. He was coming for her. The other cubs watched. Mira watched. All 12 young Vox saw what was happening. They saw the threat to their human. They saw the danger coming toward the one being who had shown them kindness. And something in them woke up. Something that was not training. Something that was not learned in any lesson. Something that was pure instinct and pure love. Myra made a sound, low and rumbling. It was a sound of warning. It was a sound of protection. The other cubs heard it, and they began to move. Lisa Harris arrived on Vox Prime 3 weeks before she sat in that back row. The journey from Earth took 42 days in the colonial transport ship. During those days, she read everything about the Vox species. She studied their language, their customs, their way of thinking. She learned that they were proud people. They were strong. They did not trust easily. But Lisa was not afraid. The spaceport on Vox Prime was massive. Buildings made of dark stone and metal rose high into the orange sky. The air smelled different than Earth air. It was thinner. It burned Lisa's nose when she breathed too deep. She wore a breathing mask for the first 3 days. By day 4, her body adapted. The burning stopped. An official from the Vox Education Department met her at the spaceport. His name was Keth. He was tall, much taller than Lisa. His scales were dark blue and black, with streaks of silver that caught the light when he moved. His eyes were large and golden, with a vertical pupil that seemed to see everything. Keth did not smile. Lisa learned that Vox did not smile the way humans did. Instead, Keth made a low sound in his throat, something like a hum. This was greeting. Keth drove Lisa to the cub training facility in a vehicle that moved without wheels. It floated above the ground on some kind of energy field. The city passed beneath them as they traveled. Lisa saw Vox adults walking the streets. She saw their young playing in open spaces. The young ones were smaller, their scales still pale and soft. Some of them looked at the human in the floating vehicle with curiosity. Others turned away. The training facility was a large structure with many rooms. Keth showed Lisa the observation area first. It was a small room with a window of thick, transparent material. From this window, she could see the main training room. Keth explained that Lisa would sit here, watch the cubs, take notes, record her observations. She was part of a new program. The Vox and humans were working together now. They wanted to understand each other. This program was one way to do that. Lisa was the first human observer in Vox Cub training. This was important. Keth made sure she understood. One mistake, one problem, and the program would end. Lisa nodded. She understood the weight of this responsibility. The first day in the observation room, Lisa watched 12 young Vox Cubs train. They ranged in age from 2 to 4 years old. In the main room, an instructor named Vel taught them basic combat skills. The cubs were clumsy. They fell down. They made mistakes. Vel was hard with them, but not cruel. He pushed them, but he did not hurt them. Lisa wrote everything down. She noted how the cubs learned. She observed which ones were faster, which ones were stronger, which ones were more intelligent. She saw that even at this young age, each cub was different. They had different natures. They had different gifts. One cub was smaller than the others. Her name was Mira. The other cubs were sometimes rough with her because of her size. But Myra was clever. When the larger cubs used force, Myra used strategy. She learned their movements. She learned how to move around them. By the end of the first week, Mira was one of the best students in the group. Lisa found herself watching Mira more than the others. There was something in the young female that reminded Lisa of herself. A determination that did not match her size. A will that refused to be broken. The second week, something changed. Mira started to watch the observation window. Lisa realized the cub could see her through the transparent material. The cub did not have the proper light in the observation room to see inside, but Myra could sense her there. Lisa felt sure of this. There was something between them, some kind of connection. By the end of the second week, Keth brought Lisa into the main training room. The cubs needed to know her, he said. They needed to understand that humans were not a threat. They needed to become comfortable with her presence. Lisa felt nervous. These were wild creatures. They had claws and teeth and strength that could break her bones. But when Keth brought her into the room, the cubs did not attack. They came toward her with curiosity. Myra was first. The young cub moved close to Lisa, her head reaching only to Lisa's waist. Myra sniffed the air around Lisa. The cub made a soft sound, almost like a purr, but not quite. The other cubs followed Myra's lead. Soon Lisa was surrounded by 12 young Vox, all making soft sounds, all trying to understand what she was. Lisa knelt down so she was smaller, less threatening. She moved slowly. She did not reach out to touch them. She simply sat on her knees and let them come to her. Her heart beat fast in her chest. But she did not move. She did not show fear. One cub, a male named Dren, was bolder than the others. He reached out one clawed hand and touched Lisa's arm. The contact was gentle, curious. Dren made more of those soft purring sounds. He turned to the other cubs and made the sounds louder, as if telling them that touching the human was a good thing. Soon all the cubs wanted to touch her. They put their clawed hands on her arms, her shoulders, her hair. Their claws were sharp, but they were careful. They did not scratch. Lisa understood that they could have hurt her easily, but they chose not to. They chose gentleness. That night, Lisa sat in her quarters and made entries in her personal log. She wrote that the cubs showed intelligence, curiosity, and the capacity for gentleness. She wrote that the observation program was working. She wrote that maybe, just maybe, humans and Vox could really understand each other. She did not write about the feeling in her chest when Mira looked at her with those golden eyes. She did not write about how the little female cub had rubbed her head against Lisa's hand, or how Lisa had stroked the soft scales on Myra's head for several minutes before the training session ended. These things were personal. These things were beyond the scope of the official report. But Lisa knew something had changed. She had come here as an observer, but she was becoming something more. She was becoming a bridge between two species. And the young female named Mira was building that bridge with her, one moment at a time. 3 weeks into the program, Lisa no longer felt like an outsider sitting in the back row. She felt like she belonged in the training room. She felt like she belonged on Vox Prime. And when she looked at Myra's face, she saw something that looked like joy. She saw the beginning of friendship between human and Vox. She saw hope. Mira was the first one to move. The small female cub did not think about what she was doing. There was no calculation in her mind. There was only one truth. The human was in danger. Myra had learned in a short life that humans could be trusted. Lisa had never hit her. Lisa had never screamed at her. Lisa had shown her only gentleness and patience. So when Lisa was threatened, Mira moved. The cub launched herself at Vex with all the strength her small body could create. She jumped high, and her teeth snapped at his shoulder. Her claws raked across his arm. She was not strong enough to hurt him badly. But she was fast and she was angry. Vex swung around in shock. He had not expected the cub to attack him. He tried to hit Mira, but the young female was already moving away. She dodged his hand and came at him again. The other cubs saw what Myra was doing. They did not question. They did not hesitate. Dren moved next, launching himself at Vex's other side. Then Kira's brother, a male named Theo, came forward even though Kira had just been hurt. Then the rest of them moved as one. 12 young Vox cubs, none of them fully grown, none of them trained for real combat, attacked the instructor. They did this not because they had learned it. They did this because it was right. They did this because every instinct in their bodies said that a threat to their human must be stopped. Vex tried to defend himself. He was much larger than them. He was much stronger. He was experienced in fighting. But 12 opponents coming at him from all directions was more than even Vex could handle easily. The cubs bit and clawed. They knocked him down to the ground. They did not stop. They did not show mercy. They protected Lisa the way she had protected them, with her gentleness and her presence. They protected her with their teeth and claws and bodies. Vex screamed. He tried to push them off. He hit at them with his fists and claws. But the cubs kept coming. There was no fear in them now. There was only purpose. There was only the need to protect. Lisa stood back and watched. She was shaking. Her hands were in fists. She did not try to stop them. She did not try to save Vex. She understood what was happening. The cubs were doing what was necessary. Mira was the fiercest. The small female cub that Lisa had stroked and comforted was now a warrior. She bit and clawed with everything she had. She was smaller and weaker than the others, but she fought the hardest. She was protecting her human. Vex was on his back now, covered by the bodies of 12 young attackers. He was bleeding from many places. His good eye was swollen. His scarred face was torn further. He screamed and struggled, but he could not stop them. For almost a minute, the attack continued. Then Keth was there. The instructor moved fast, faster than Lisa had ever seen any Vox move. He reached down and pulled cubs off Vex one by one, holding them back. The cubs resisted. They wanted to continue. They wanted to make sure the threat was gone. But Keth was too strong. He pulled them away from Vex, and they had to obey. Vex lay on the ground, broken and bleeding. His breathing came in short gasps. He was not dead, but he was very close. Medical teams arrived 3 minutes later. They came with equipment and knowledge. They took Vex away quickly. Nobody said if he would live or die. After they took Vex away, there was only silence in the training room. The cubs stood in the space where they had attacked. They were breathing hard. Some of them had blood on their scales. Some of them had scratches and small wounds. Lisa moved forward. She moved slowly and carefully. She did not want to startle them. She walked into the middle of the group of young Vox. Myra came to her first. The cub pressed her body against Lisa's legs. She made soft, whimpering sounds. Lisa reached down and stroked the scales on Myra's head. She did this over and over. The other cubs came to Lisa too. They pressed against her. They made soft sounds. They were still afraid. They were still shaking from what they had done. But they were also calm now, because Lisa was there. Lisa knelt down in the middle of the group. 12 young cubs surrounded her. Their claws and teeth, that had been weapons moments before, were now just part of them. They were cubs again. They were young and small and scared. Lisa spoke to them softly. She told them they were brave. She told them they were good. She told them they had done what was right. She did not tell them that what they had done was bad. She did not tell them they should feel shame. She understood that they had protected what mattered to them. She understood that they had made a choice to keep their humans safe. Myra lay her head against Lisa's chest and made that soft, purring sound. The other cubs did the same. Soon Lisa was surrounded by warmth and soft scales and the smell of young Vox. Keth watched from across the room. His expression was hard to read. His golden eyes moved back and forth between Lisa and the cubs. He said nothing. He did not move. He simply watched as a human and 12 young Vox created something new in that training room. A bond had formed. Not a bond of training or instruction. Not a bond of fear or force, but a bond of protection and trust and love. A bond that showed the galaxy something important. It showed that kindness was not weakness. It showed that compassion could create loyalty stronger than any military command. The cubs had protected their human because she had been kind to them. They had protected her because she mattered to them. They had protected her because she had shown them that gentleness was a real force in the universe. And in that moment, with 12 young Vox pressed against her and Mira purring against her chest, Lisa understood that she had changed their world. But more important, they had changed hers. She would never be the same. None of them would ever be the same. The connection between human and Vox had moved from observation and study to something real. Something true. Something that could never be broken.